The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon. We're open line today through till 1. Tomorrow, out and about, outside broadcast at St Ninian's High School with the years 12 and 13, what we used to know as sixth formers. So today, your chance to have your say on, well, whatever's in the news that has inspired something. I must say hi to Andy in Peel, who said, I hate the seats on the promenade. Short and pithy and to the point. I hate the seats on the promenade. What about them, Andy? Well, there we are. Nobody, I have to say, has said anything good about that sea wall on Douglas Promenade as well. It does look very imposing, doesn't it? And who knows, is it the start of things to come? Is it going to be extended right the way up? Any thoughts on that? It is National Apprenticeship Week this week, if you have anything to say about that. And we're also told that ANPR, automatic number plate recognition, is on its way to the Isle of Man and to the seaports as well. David's first with us today. Hi, David.
Hi, Randy. And it's amazing now. A government department is doing something wonderful. And I've been a supporter of ANPR and also facial recognition at the ports and the airport. So the Home Affairs Minister, who I've forgotten her name at the minute, but
Jane
anyway...
Jane
Paul Wilson, tick in the box. What a department that's actually doing something for the community.
I also think it may be because I think if you remember last year before Christmas, the Chief Constable was on. I think the Chief Constable wanted to tighten up security at all the ports.
That's right. And he's also taken on, because the article in the Courier says too, that the police at the airport, they're not, what's the best way to put it? They're a different, but he's going to absorb them into his force.
Yeah.
So I just wonder what powers they will have then down at the airport and the sea terminal itself.
Oh, you mean, will they be warranted? Will they carry a warrant card?
Well, yeah. And before anybody starts anything, that's the best way to go, isn't it? We anybody that comes on and says we don't need security on the Isle of Man, needs to look at themselves what's happening sometimes in the Isle of Man. You look at it across there now all the time. People come here, drug dealers are coming here because it's easy to do. But we can put out there now from everybody in the Isle of Man, you come here and we're going to get you.
Well, the fact is times have changed. I mean, 20, 30 years ago, we didn't need that level of security. And I think, I'm not speaking on behalf of Mr. Foster, the Chief Constable, but I remember he did say he knows what the situation's like in the UK. And he said the Isle of Man is like the UK was 20 years ago. And he said he knows what's happened in the past 20 years in the UK. And he did say he wants to keep everybody safe. That was his big message.
And don't we, Andy? That's the same thing. We're the population. We could say to people out there, you come to the Isle of Man for your holidays, you come to stay, or you come to live. This is what we can give you. Security here. And because we're an island too, we can actually tick the box a lot quicker. And Jane Paul Wilson, that's good enough for me. She's not my MHK. I wish ours were doing something. All right, lad.
All right, just very quickly, it's National Apprenticeship Week. It started this week.
Yeah.
I know you've talked long and hard about apprenticeships over...
I was going to try... Oh, sorry, mate. I was going to try and gate crash on Thursday. I'm not an employer anymore, not in a trade union anymore, but I'm still concerned that a number of people come on to me and say to me, David, what can this government do? They're not employing any apprentices. They're not giving them any money. So the question you want to ask, not the students tomorrow, but you could ask them, does any of them want to be a joiner, a brickie, a plumber?
That's a very good point. Yeah, artisan apprenticeships.
Yeah, and ask them too, do they know what my card means?
My card. Okay. All right, thanks for calling today.
Ta-ra, boy. Ta-ra.
Cheers now. Look at that time. It's 11 minutes past 12. I noticed there was a post on LinkedIn. I think it was the Steam Packet posted that they employ, or they've got an apprenticeship scheme. In fact, the Naval College, the nearest Naval College, in fact, it is a fine naval college, is in Fleetwood, just across the water. So I think I'm reading that rightly. No doubt anybody at the Steam Packet will tell me what their apprenticeship program is. But it is the start of National Apprenticeship Week. UCIOM marks the occasion by hosting an event on Thursday which sees industry experts share their experience of the benefits of apprenticeship schemes. Any thoughts on it? Howard's with us now. Hi, let me see, Gordon. Hi, Gordon.
Hi, how are you? Something I wanted to pick up on something Howard talked about. I think it was last week.
Yeah.
About the nunnery offering courses in drone operation.
Yeah.
And he said this was a hobby and it was a ridiculous waste of time. Well, as a chartered surveyor, long retired, I may add, the commercial use of drones is increasing all the time for surveying roofs. Utilities use it to plan pipeline and cable routes, aerial mapping, all sorts of things.
So is there a living to be made operating a drone?
I think there is, and there will be increasingly in the future. And people have got to be trained to use them properly so they don't fly into power lines or conflict with CAA regulations, etc., etc. So it's quite right that there should be a course for this sort of thing.
So you were a surveyor, did you say?
I'm a retired chartered surveyor.
Okay, so what used to happen in the past then that drones now have replaced?
People climbed ladders.
I see.
Many years ago, I remember there was an architect on the island called Ron Kinley. He was one of the partners in Davidson Marsh, the architects. And he had to do a survey of the spire at Braddon Church. And he climbed up a series of ladders up into a hatch in the spire, lost his footing, and fell to his death.
Good grief. When was that?
Oh, back in the late 80s, early 90s, something like that.
Well, if a drone replaces that sort of situation, then it's good news.
That's right, it is.
Okay, we appreciate that, Gordon. Thanks for calling us today.
Okay, cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye now. Actually, Howard's with us now. Hi, Howard.
Hey, Andy. The chap has just been on. Yes, drones are a useful item, but should it be on the school curriculum or should it be a paid lessons? I don't dispute the fact that they are useful because a lot of the work we see on television and various other aspects is largely done by drones now. But it should be, if people are going to train on this, it should be like an apprenticeship as such, but it didn't give any indication on the one at the UCM whether it was a private lessons or was it part of a school curriculum. But that was all it was. They are very useful, and they obviously, as that the chap has just said, will save possibly, hopefully, any other serious accidents. Ladders are, well, they're not verboten now, but they're frowned upon. But what I come on for, I just mentioned to Chris, and I've listened to David Quirk, and here again I'm in agreement with the ANRP. There's been very little, if any, security down at the boats, and the number of people coming in and out with vehicles insecure, it's been farcical. But anyway, a little while ago, my internet went off at home, and I went into the system to reconnect to it, and as it does, it says connect to another network. Well, I got one that came up, and when mine came up, I reconnected to it, and it said underneath this was another network that I could have had the password connected to. Isle of Man Government Surveillance Van.
Wow.
Yes, security-enabled network. I've got it in front of me. I took a photograph of it, and it said signal strength, fair, and security type, and give you the radio type, and this was must have been 3 months or more ago. So in the area where I live in, there must have been something of the Isle of Man government surveillance vehicles. What were they?
Well, I've never heard of that, Howard. What sort of surveillance vehicles does the government operate?
Well, I've seen them. They've had ANPR ones where they used to sit down in that little cul-de-sac down at Tesco.
Right.
And they'd have the camera. And didn't I say one time before they were sitting somewhere with a camera on the tripod? Quarterbridge.
Yeah, people have... And also, they used to be... They'd go up and down by York Road on Woodburn Road as well.
Oh, well, I'll be honest, I haven't seen that one. But yes, but there's always been... I must say always, there has been for many, many years, cameras on those traffic lights at the top of York Road. And when people asked, are they speed cameras or not, but apparently they're safety cameras, allegedly, for people that jump the lights.
So that's that ANPR wagon's obviously got its own Wi-Fi network, because presumably they can send any information straight back to police.
Yep. Yeah, because I've got the photograph here in front of me. I took it off the screen. Isle of Man Government Surveillance V, it says, for the network, but it's written underneath it, VAN, Security Enabled Network. So that's how long that's been about. I do not know. It's the first and only time I've seen it, but it's because I had to reconnect to my router that came up as a possible network I could connect to. So somewhere in the system, the government do have a surveillance system that they're not saying anything about.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Howard.
Okay, take care.
Good to hear from you. Regarding ANPR, text to 507, I had to renew my tax at the post office last time. Online wasn't available because the insurance company hadn't uploaded details to the national database. Does this mean that anybody in the same position, entirely out of their own control, could be stopped for apparently having no insurance? Well, that's certainly one of the purposes, and because we have... They use them a lot more in the UK because they don't have tax discs. We do have tax discs, so that, and they use them on motorways in the UK just to see which people are driving around with no insurance. Remember, they also have a big problem of lots of vehicles coming across from continental Europe. But ours is going to be security, and particularly people bringing contraband to the Isle of Man, and also people bringing stolen vehicles to the Isle of Man, and perhaps putting rogue plates on them or cloned plates on them. So no doubt, when the ANPR starts here, there will be some easy wins for the constabulary, and it will also set a benchmark. It's another bit of the Isle of Man, frankly, that's kind of falling. The old Isle of Man is frankly falling away, where everything was done on trust. It's a world that is diminishing, sometimes disappearing, but it's the world that we're in now. I just wonder what your thoughts are. If ANPR, automatic number plate recognition, comes and will be at Ronaldsway, I beg your pardon, that's facial recognition at Ronaldsway. Number plate recognition will be at both sea terminals, perhaps all three of them, Liverpool, Heysham and in Douglas. University College Isle of Man says the drone flying for beginners course is an adult learning upskilling program. Somebody just emailed in for this, running as part of UCM's upskilling offering. This interactive course is perfect for anyone interested in learning how to fly drones safely and responsibly while having fun and meeting like-minded people. It's a 3-hour course led by UCM computing lecturer Kieran Watts, covering theoretical and practical lessons on drone operation, including key topics such as local, legal and regulatory knowledge, safety procedures and basic practical flying skills. That's UCIOM's upskilling course for drones. Julian's on now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Very well. You're an experienced drone flyer, aren't you?
Yeah, I've been flown drones about a bit, yeah. Quite interesting. They're very good these days, actually, with their auto stability, and you can get FPV ones that can do barrel rolls and do 100 and whatever miles an hour. Pretty impressive.
Am I right in saying that the technology's improved kind of exponentially?
Well, it's gone I think more to do with range of the Wi-Fi, although that can be sometimes limited by how much power you can do in any jurisdiction. The lenses are getting better. Prices are sort of coming down as as time goes on. The only thing is, of course, probably the biggest manufacturer is DJI in China. So,
Right.
A bit like the military in the UK are finding out that aren't they being told not to speak in their military vehicles that are made from China or something now?
Oh, good grief! Right.
So I know there's all this data thing. Just quickly with the ANPR thing, if you get mice in the house, what's better, to block up the hole that they're coming in or to put mouse traps out forever? Why don't we just have this ANPR facial recognition thing at the ports and on the boat? You've got 4 hours odd to catch these people. Otherwise, we're going to be having mouse traps across the island before you know it, and there'll be ANPR and facial recognition in Andius and Laxey and everywhere, won't there? And
that's the point. I mean, the thing is, obviously, safety is the first thing, and the constabulary's job is to make everybody safe, and this is a tool that they want to use. But as you say, it does chip away at civil liberties, which are important. I mean, they do figure in this. So, as you say, if we can just have it at the ports and nowhere else, that will possibly be helpful.
Yeah, I'd go for that. Maybe looking at the ramp and the pedestrian area coming off the boat, just to sort of have that final check. But, having it on the island, it's kind of, the horse has bolted a bit by then, isn't it, really? I've been asking this question for a while as to the lack of information forthcoming about the Mannin Orsted seabed lease, and the fact that they're saying that they can't tell us, how much we're going to get or even free electricity. I had a look at how it's done in the UK territorial waters. And basically, when a wind farm developer chooses an area of seabed, they have to show commitment by paying the Crown Estate an option fee or an agreement for lease. So think of it like a rolling deposit on a new off-plan housing development. You're sort of staking a claim on it.
Yeah.
The Crown Estate's own website has an article published. That's thecrownestate.co.uk. There's an article on that from 2 years ago in January of 23. And it states that 6 agreements for lease or option fee agreements had a total commitment payment of £1 billion per year.
Wow. Which
averages out of £166 million for each proposed wind project per year, which is quite a lot of money. I mean, that's just to stake a claim.
Well, I mean, when we say that we've not heard what the figure is between Orsted and the Manx government for renting our seabed, I'm sure, Julian, that between the two of them, they know what it is. It's just that they're not telling us.
Well, this brings me to an FOI, an Isle of Man FOI request. If anybody's got a pen to hand, the FOI number is 424-8334. So that again, 424-8334. That FOI asked for details of 10 years' worth of annual revenue received from all licenses, leases and agreements associated with marine activities in Manx territorial waters. Now, that FOI comes up with some interesting figures, and the column heading that caught my attention is titled Offshore Renewable Energy Generation. Now, the average annual revenue over the 10 years shown in this FOI, if you look at the 10 years, the average per year is just over £8,500. So £8,500, whereas the Crown Estate expects for something similar sort of size for a commitment payment of £166 million per year. Now, I noticed that the first payment on this FOI on the Isle of Man coincided in 2015 with the signing of an agreement to lease, just like the nomenclature in the UK, between the Isle of Man government and Orsted's predecessor, Dong Energy. So I'm curious to know if the Isle of Man has received any of these 9-figure option fee payments for our territorial seabed, as all other offshore wind farm developers have to do that with the Crown Estate seabed territory.
Right. I mean, do you know, are these non-returnable options? Are they just deposits, kind of holding deposits?
Well, they appear to be a commitment fee. Obviously that would be within their contract. But,
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's what they're told to do. I noticed the Isle of Man purchased the 12-mile territorial waters from the UK government, according to the government website, not the Crown Estate, in 1991.
Yes.
For 800,000. Yeah, 800,000.
And I'm trying to remember which MHK was responsible for that. It was somebody quite far-sighted.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of them there. And adjusted for inflation, that would be like spending about 1.8 million for it now. And the other query I have is, on the 22nd of October last year, Ørsted announced on their website that Moor Vannin, despite being in our territorial waters, would be treated by the UK, and I'll quote, as nationally significant infrastructure, and would also be allowed to apply for planning consent from the UK. So I'm just wondering, perhaps next week when Dr. Allinson, our Treasury Minister, is going to be on the Mannin Line, I think it's quite important when you're looking at figures like this. Have we been paid the customary £100+ million per year for these option fees from Ørsted? And if not, it would be nice to know why. And how is it that the UK can give planning consent for a wind farm project inside our territory? With Isle of Man residents cannot give or refuse consent. The inference from all this is, are we going to get a bean from all this?
Yeah, it will be nice to know, as you say, there seems to be, both governments have got a say in this. And is it because the UK has a say because they may be offering Ørsted some subsidy in the UK because of the fact they're landing the electricity in the UK. Is it because of that, or is it because of anything else?
And Dong Energy, when you look at the detail of their agreement back in 2015, it was originally for a 700 megawatt wind farm, whereas when we look at Moor Vannin now, Ørsted, they're saying it's a 1.4 gigawatt or 1,400, so that's twice as much as 700. So was there another agreement that was signed or things that we're not familiar with? And now Moor Vannin have changed it again. Remember the other week I said they were talking about 350-metre high turbines. So that would indicate, based on the size of those things and the concepts that are around, that would be taking it up to 1,900. So working on the Crown Estate's payment formula, well, if they want to stake a claim with that kind of size, we should really be getting somewhere in the region of 178 million per year just for a deposit,
okay.
A rolling deposit.
All right, appreciate that. That's a really important point to make. Thanks, Julian.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
Good to hear from you. Here's a man who might know a lot about this. Former MHK Chris Robertshaw is with us. Hi, Chris.
Hi, good morning, Andy. Just to answer your question about who organised the extension for the territorial waters, it was David North.
Oh, I see. When he would be infrastructure then, was he?
I don't know whether it was infrastructure or whether it was whatever Department of Enterprise was. I can't remember, but it was him. And I a few months ago, went round, knocked on his door and said, David, you don't get thanks for this, but somebody's got to thank you for doing what you did, so let me do it. So it would be nice for him to get a bit of acknowledgement on the radio, so that's why I've done it. You know, you're just talking then about income from the wind farm, the Crogger wind farm, as will be, or the Crogger area wind farm. My argument would be very simple. By definition, it can never be very much. The reason for that is very simple. When wind farms are being licenses have been set up in the UK, the licensee, the organising company that's going to construct the wind farm, they have to buy that license, and it's a very significant amount of money. And the pro quo for them is that the UK government, as the licensor, then agrees what's called a contract for difference, which is, in simple terms, it's a subsidy, which makes sure that the wind farm company doesn't lose money on a day-to-day basis, depending on whether the wind is there or not. Now, the Isle of Man wind farm cannot go ahead unless Ørsted are able to negotiate with the UK government that very significant subsidy. Now, it baffles the mind to think that the UK government would pay Ørsted the contract for difference or the subsidy figure, knowing full well that a significant outflow of funds would go from Ørsted to the Isle of Man government. Andy, that's not going to happen. So I would put it to you that the reason we're not hearing very much about how much income would come to the Isle of Man government from the wind farm itself is based on the principle that the government must know that the amount of funds coming in will be pretty marginal. So that's my assessment on that one. And the other one, again, to follow your previous caller, he's made quite a point about the size of the turbines that are proposed. And I've been listening over the weekend, as I'm sure lots of other people have as well, that the share price of almost all the wind farm companies, the big boys, is crashing because they're finding that, if I can be very quick, what these wind farm companies tend to do is they organise the licence with the government, build a wind farm, and then finance it on to another organisation. Now, these organisations that are taking on these financial structures are, and these are the reports over the weekend, they're finding that the life of the wind farms is much shorter than they thought. So they, as I understood it, and I'm perfectly happy to be corrected here, is that the finance company is seeing the first number of years of the income being very much focused on covering some of their finance, but that later on, when they should be making money, they're finding that the lifespan of these wind turbines is shortening, and it's down to sort of 20 years now. But apparently, prior to that, the operational costs are going up, and they're going up disproportionately to the size of the wind turbines themselves. So, in simple terms, it means that the wind farm companies like Ørsted are finding it more and more difficult to finance the wind farms, that those who are taking on the finance after they're built are finding that the money's not there, and thus the crash right across the world of the wind farm companies. So have we already seen peak wind farms come and go? Are we now on the downhill version? I suspect that we might be. Well, anyway, that's my contribution.
Certainly the plot thickens. And just before you go, David North was DHPP, Highways, Ports and Properties.
Well, yes, well done, David, and I hope the message gets back to him that for once in his life he's been acknowledged for the work that he did.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for calling today.
All right, thank you.
25-1. We'll put that on record. David North, middle MHK, of course he was Minister for Highways, Ports and Properties, DHPP, which became Transport, which became Infrastructure. Thank you, James, also for pointing that out. And we'll put that on record because if it was David North's efforts that got us the territorial seas, including hydrocarbon, coal and mineral rights up to the 12-mile limit, purchased by the Isle of Man government from the UK in 1991. Well done, David North. Let's put that on record.
With Crossroads Furniture Commission Service, our home interiors store will collect customers' unwanted furniture and sell it on their behalf. Following a sale, the customer receives 60% of the sale price, with the remaining 40% being donated to Crossroads. If you have quality furniture to sell and benefit Crossroads, then arrange a collection. Call 611-363 or email furniture@crossroadsiom.org. Terms and conditions apply.
Whether starting a new business or building up your existing business, come and talk to the accounts and tax experts at Nicola Bowker & Co. With their holistic approach to business advice, Nicola Bowker & Co. will work with you to achieve success. For accounts that work, call 861 271.
Spectrum Windows. If your house needs a new look and your windows let in rain, keep those cold breezes out and make it look like new again. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Quality through and through. Great work guaranteed to you. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Spectrum Windows.
EPS just finished painting our house and we're delighted with the result.
Very impressed with the speed, quality and standard of work.
We would recommend EPS highly.
House looks like new.
Brilliant job from start to finish.
EPS, transforming properties island-wide with a revolutionary Protex wall covering system. Guaranteed for 10 years. Visit eps.company for details. There's a waiting list, but it'll be worth it.
A good job well done.
Thank you, EPS.
On the 4th of March, the House of Keys will choose 4 people to become members of the Legislative Council. Prior to that vote, Agenda will be speaking with all the candidates so that you can find out more about the people that hope to become national politicians, voting in Tynwald on policy and finance and playing a significant role in shaping the laws of our island. We hear this week from former Garth MHK Martin Perkins, who's hoping to get elected to Legco. That's Agenda this evening at 5:30 on Manx Radio with me, Phil Gaughan. Legco can have a big impact on your life, so it's well worth a listen to tonight's programme.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
23 minutes before 1. Of course, there aren't many politicians who've got a road named after them. Fort North. It will always be Fort North. The traffic roundabout at the top of the Castletown Road intersects with the Braid Road. Well done. My wife was stopped a couple of weeks ago by the police and was told her tax was out of date. This was obviously picked up by some device in the police car, as the police never... The car was never out of tax and was on display in the car. Before they start using equipment, they need to make sure the records are up to date. This was relaxed in May. Also, the police officer told my wife she had to contact vehicle licensing to confirm that her tax had been updated on their system, says Gavin. Oh, by the way, says Jamie, it's a well-known geek joke. Who are the geeks? To rename your phone hotspot, your Wi-Fi network, as something kind of, you call it the Kremlin or FBI or MI5 or Isle of Man police surveillance van. Can you do that? I thought it was an offence to impersonate a police officer, even if it's a Wi-Fi network. Anyway, you could call it the Kremlin, couldn't you, or something? But that may have been it. Regarding ANPR and port security, anybody who's got an issue with this must have 100% faith in the UK border control, because we have an open border policy with them. I, for one, don't have faith in the UK to keep us safe. So we keep ourselves safe. I'm delighted to hear we're having vehicle number plate recognition, says Texter 068, and we hope very much that facial recognition at our ports. Up until now, we've had zero border security on the steam packet. It's deeply troubling. Sadly, we live in a dangerous world, and we don't know what nasty people are sailing here to do us harm. Thank you for that. Eddie's on now. Hi, Eddie.
Hiya. You all right, mate?
Very well, thanks, yeah.
Good. A couple of interesting callers today. Chris was very, very interesting, and Julian as well. But really summing it up, it's what we've been saying for so long, I think. We've been emphasising the fact that some of these companies have got to the extreme now where they've stolen as much money as they can, if you want, from governments all over, and everybody's feeling the pinch. They're realising, another point he made was that the lifespan of these things are being exposed. I've heard it's only 15 years. He said 20. But it doesn't matter. You're not going to get the chance to get your money back, in my opinion. And we've emphasised this for months after months after months. But the point I want to get is, we keep going over these points. But something that struck me as interesting was a British government, I think it was last week or the week before, announced that we haven't got enough nuclear power stations. They're going to invest in more nuclear power stations.
Well, it was the mini nuclear ones they were looking at as well, because, obviously to build a nuclear power station takes the best part of 10 years.
Well, that's what I was going to get to. The mini ones are proving to be quite interesting. So I think our government should put the wind turbines on hold, at least for a year or so, until they experiment with these things and find out, what is what, really, because this, to everybody I speak to, everybody seems to agree on the outside here in the real world that we're just heading for a bigger disaster than ever, bigger than steam packet, everything.
Okay. Just before we go any further, when you say that the wind farm companies have stolen money, what do you mean?
Well, the deals that they have struck up with governments all over the place, and some of it is very suspect because I was telling you about that Alana group. He's being charged with bribery and corruption and everything. But even if he's not, it doesn't matter. They are subsidised.
Right. So these are basically they're claiming legitimate subsidies.
Yeah, but to me, a subsidy, they're conning money out of the public. If it doesn't work without a subsidy, don't get the damn thing. You want things that are going to run themselves a bit profitable. You don't want the taxpayers with a bigger burden than ever, which is exactly what's happened throughout the world, and right. That's why America's getting rid of them. Germany, you name it, they're all getting rid of them.
Right.
All right, Andy.
Okay, that's good. I need to dash on because we've got Robert with us now. All right, thanks, Eddie. Bye now.
Hi.
Cheers now, 17 minutes before 1. Robert's with us now. Hi, Robert.
Hi, bit of a pep talk. How are you?
Very well. Happy today.
Okay, sorry I haven't got the on. I'm out and about today downtown. The thing is that we seem to be all naysayers at the moment with the shock of the cup of soup weather that we've just been through. And it's a good idea not to get too naysayer about it and kind of, depressed and stuff like that. I was on North Quay yesterday, and fair enough, I had a pint and I was a bit merry, but I was looking around, I was looking at all the boats going, and I was looking at all the people going across. I was like, where are they going to? It's all here. We've got it all. If you just used what you've got, you can get somewhere and step over the naysayers. That's my point.
All right, that's today's uplifting point from Robert. We appreciate it, Robert. Thanks for that.
Bye.
Good to hear from you. My mate works on wind farms in the old East Germany. He tells me many are now redundant after 15 years. It's a big issue on whose responsibility it is to dismantle them. That's 223. And many people talking about David. Yes, we need I don't think we're quite at the stage with a statue of David North, but he just needs some kudos for fostering that purchase. Paul Crane MLC is pushing for territorial waters past the 12-mile limit now, says 143. And the message in just says, this brings into question why the Isle of Man government is pushing to extend the Isle of Man territorial waters. This will make the Isle of Man different to every other European nation's territorial waters. So what is the benefit of extending the territorial waters, says John. And, Juan's on now. Hi, Juan.
How are you today, Andy?
Very well, thanks, yes.
Very well. I heard you said happy there before. I was just wondering who the other 6 dwarfs were today.
Well, there we are. We're counting down because I'm enthused because 3 weeks tomorrow is Pancake Day.
Are you going to be tossing your pancakes?
Well, it leaves me a bit flat, to be quite honest. Pancake Day.
As long as they don't stick to the ceiling, then you're in with a good chance. Just listen to a few things that I've been following up on over the last week. I've just thought I'd have a week off and let Simon come on. I don't think he came on, but anyway. I see that in America. I see people got FBI surveillance on. I think you can just name your internet thing, whatever, and it actually just puts people off trying to click onto your private internet. So I've seen quite a few going around like that. So maybe not, maybe conspiratorial on that one. I'll go for that. But I believe Alf Cannon's following President Trump as well. I think he's asked for the stretch of water between Ramsey and Whitehaven to become the Gulf of Bride. I think he's just going to follow on from the American politics. But seriously, on the ANPR, now I spoke about this a while ago. In fact, I think the one person who got up and questioned Jane Poole Wilson at the government conference about the introduction of ANPR, but more so the facial recognition. And I think, as people have said, we need security at our borders. The security at the boat is very loose. I would imagine constabulary taking control of police ports will help on that. But listening to some of the police port officers down there, they've not been quite happy with what's been going on either. But it'll be the mission creep. It'll be the main problem there, I would imagine, is if we're going to protect our borders, that'll be fine. But if the mission creep is to put this facial recognition in through the streets of Strand Street and everywhere else, then that could be an issue for the future.
I just wonder, Jewin, is there any facial... Because in the UK, there's facial recognition everywhere, and some of it may be inside retail premises. So I just wonder whether any commercial premises, and it would be the big multiples, whether they've got facial recognition in their premises anyway.
Interesting on that. Just on a side topic of that, the Aldi's have just introduced in England a total facial recognition camera system within a couple of their shops, which they are rolling out. So you walk in, your card is registered. As soon as you pick something up, it's registered to your card. You walk out. There's no staff whatsoever. All you've got is filler staff at night time, but there's actually no staff. So you pick the stuff up and walk out. Yeah. And it's all done on cameras and facial recognition, and that is the way that it's going. And like I said to Jane Poole Wilson, this is not new to the Isle of Man. This is something that's being pushed through UK legislation and further afield, and all they're doing is just following the herd on that. Do we need border security? Yes, we do. Do we need anything more than that? Well, there we are with the Isle of Man. Going on to the quickly, what Julian was talking about before, I think that question that he's asked there is an important question for Alex Allinson next week, and I think it would be nice for Alex to come with an answer to that question. Maybe you could preempt him with that, and rather than that's a good question, thank you for that, and walk away from it. Maybe it'd be nice to come with an answer to the table of that, because you look at what's happening. I'm looking at the Yorkshire Post this week, Manchester Evening News. People are now starting to get up in arms about the size of wind turbines on our grass and on our fields, the size of Blackpool Tower. People are starting to get upset about this, and you can quite clearly go on and look at all this stuff. But the Isle of Man and the Attorney General's office is hell-bent on doing this and putting legislation, and they've been squirreling away for a while. And that question about seabed options is quite valid. For the size of the Moor Bannon 1,400 megawatt wind farm would be 93,200 on that size on the options. So where's our 130 million? And this is the problem we've got, is government's not being straight with us. And if you've got not just Ørsted, but all these other wind farm companies are tanking, like Chris said, quite clear to go and see, no matter who else comes on and goes, oh, it's a conspiracy and whatever, it's there and it's factual. So my point would be, why is our government starting to deal with companies that are tanking? And seriously tanking, they're going off the edge of the cliff. So before we make a big mistake, and like Eddie said, and we've kept saying this before we make this big mistake and spend all our taxpayers' money on this, and maybe still have to switch the lights off at certain times of day, maybe they should look at why these companies are tanking.
Okay, all right, thanks, Jewin.
Take care, Andy.
10 to 1 on Manx Radio. Tomorrow we're going to be live at St Ninians High School. Last week Castle Rushen. The week before we're at Ramsey Grammar School. St Ninians in Upper Douglas. and the students tomorrow will be having their say. Dr. Allinson's on in a couple of weeks' time after the budget. Of course, we have a broadcast on the day of the budget, and you got the chance to talk to politicians simply by going to manxradio.com. There's an application to get through for the live broadcast on the day of the budget. After the budget, on Wednesday 26th, Dr. Allinson will be on Mannin Line. Businesses on the Isle of Man have been encouraged to take on an apprentice. Today is the start of National Apprenticeship Week. University College Isle of Man's marking the occasion by hosting an event on Thursday which will see industry experts share their experiences of the benefits of apprenticeship schemes. Now, Ollie Newton's going to be on the panel. He's the Executive Director of the Edge Foundation and a former Specialist Advisor to the House of Lords Committee in Westminster on youth unemployment.
There's a real growing trend both in the Isle of Man, in islands that we work with, and around the world to really see kind of the value of apprenticeships. And the idea that people young and older, maybe career changers too, can be kind of learning and earning at the same time and kind of really getting that experience on the job.
Yeah, it's all good news, really, isn't it? For many years, though, apprenticeships have played second fiddle to academia, really, and getting places at universities seemed to be the big thing. But that's all changing, isn't it, when people see the benefits of apprenticeships? Yeah, I mean, I think it's very much like a many routes to success. So for some people, one route is going to be better than others, but absolutely we want to see that kind of parity of esteem and really see kind of vocational options like apprenticeships as the equal of university. And absolutely, there's kind of a really clear financial case. So be able to start kind of earning while you learn, getting the kind of experience on the job. And also employers are telling us, again, not just in the Isle of Man, but around the world, how important that kind of on-the-job experience is, and particularly those broader skills like teamworking, problem solving, that you really only get from kind of spending time working. And if we look at it in totally practical terms, the UK has a real skills gap in many areas. So I guess recruiting apprentices is the only real way of providing a long-term solution. You're absolutely right. So, we've done a lot of research ourselves in this space, and the UK is not alone in this, but absolutely there's a big skills gap, and particularly in certain industries, and particularly kind of post-COVID, post-Brexit. So it is a real challenge that needs to be met. Apprenticeships are definitely part of the answer, but there are kind of also other parts to this challenge as well. So things like, reskilling, taking account of the kind of new green industries, increasing people's skills in kind of tech. But for sure, apprenticeships are a key part of that. And I think they produce that really kind of close relationship between the apprentice and the employer. Ollie Newton, there he is, Exec Director of the Edge Foundation. Andy says, this is from Andy to Andy. Government owns the steam packet, so why no ANPR? They're identifying vehicles and passengers travelling here rather than installing it here for when people have left the port already. A news in to say, would you be against nuclear power generation if it was on the same location as the proposed wind farm? Well, that's a good point. Nuclear power does leave, when it's finished, leave some very dirty hot rocks that you have to do something with. But one of these small Rolls-Royce mini nuclear reactors on the Isle of Man, can you imagine it? Wow. Here's a note in that just says, are those millionaires who built mansions with sea views along the island's coastline put the wind farm up? There'll be a mass exodus of them as well. It's too windy, says Adam. The Isle of Man is no good for wind farms. And also, Adam dropped a note in to say, when are we getting a replacement for the motor vessel, the Carina, operating our beautiful coastline that isn't yet destroyed by wind farms? I think we know where your opinion is. They got analytical retentive about security when she was going too. Pleasure cruisers all around the British Isles operate from quaysides. The Carina had to go from the sea terminal so her passengers could be scanned, says Adam. The note about those flights, I got a message in from Wendy who just says, really, we did used to have flights to absolutely everywhere from the Isle of Man. You could fly to Gloucester, you could fly to Newcastle, Leeds, Bradford at one time, East Midlands Airport, as well as when Blackpool had an airport, you could fly there. Now it's Liverpool, it's Manchester, it's Birmingham and the London airports, and that's just about your lot. Well, if you're hoping to travel to Liverpool most Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Saturdays, journeys will be affected. EasyJet have got that new
the new timetable out from April. Journeys during TT fortnight will go ahead as normal. Gatwick isn't affected. EasyJet said they're close to review the flying programme to ensure it's aligned with the customer schedule and demand. If you go to manxradio.com, all the details are there. Oh, and thanks to the lady who just said, where can I get the FOI information with the number that Julian gave out? The Freedom of Information page is at gov.im, the government's website, gov.im, and click on About the Government, and there's a Freedom of Information tab, and it tells you all about. You can check on Freedom of Information requests, and you can make one as well there. And the Territorial Seas bit, if you want to know it, again, is gov.im if you want to take a look there. Remember, on the Thursday, the 24th of April this year, Douglas Council will have 12 vacant seats, split between the 4 wards, Central, East, North and South. To stand as a local authority member, you must appear on the Register of Electors. You don't have to be registered in the constituency for which you're standing. The registration deadline for the upcoming election in Douglas, the Douglas Council, is the 24th of this month. Registration deadline to vote is the 25th of March. If you want more information, the elections unit is on 685-754. That's 685-754. So, 12 vacant seats for Douglas Council, and perhaps you could be one of the new councillors. So, tomorrow we'll be live at St Ninian's with the students of Year 12 and 13. Back with another open line on Wednesday. Thanks to Chris on the phones today. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.
WIDR